Some of the most highly anticipated news to come out of the 49ers opening press conference for the start of training camp has been the injury updates. Obviously, Ricky Pearsall was placed on the NFI list just a week ago when rookies reported, but we weren't alerted of any information about his injury, where exactly the injury is, and how long he will be out. We got that information, so we're going to talk about that and the impact and how that will kind of change the look of the beginning portion of 49ers training camp in a second. But let's talk about this portion of the injury report as we got from general manager John Litch. The 49ers will start Drake Jackson, Talanoa Hufanga, and Dre Greenlaw on the PUP. Drake Jackson had knee surgery last year. He was seen throughout the offseason rehabbing. So I'm really curious about Drake Jackson and how his progress is coming along because, as we know, he had a bit of a down year based on the expectations that were heaped on top of him. And as a result, the 49ers had made some additional moves, got some trades taken care of to get some defensive ends in, like Chase Young and Randy Gregory. And then again, we saw that Drake had a knee problem. And I'm just really curious to see where he's at because this does feel like a pretty big offseason for Drake Jackson, especially making a solid impact in the rotation for the defensive ends. We do know the 49ers went out, got Leonard Floyd. They signed Yetur Gross-Matos. They've gone out and they've bolstered the edge spots opposite side of Nick Bosa, but we still got to see about Drake. But he is going to start the season on the physically unable to perform list, so not the ideal start that you wanted. Talanoa Hufanga, obviously, everyone is waiting on pins and needles of what his status will be moving forward into the season because as it stands right now, the 49ers are slated to start Talanoa Hufanga and Jair Brown, second-year player out of Penn State. But if Talanoa Hufanga can't practice, then they might have to turn to rookie Malik Mustafa, potentially George Odom, maybe Jalen Mahoney, undrafted free agent, makes a splash. So we got to figure out kind of the timeline for Talanoa Hufanga and really get a sense of when he will be able to return to practice because I think that right now is the most glaring issue that I see on the defense. Obviously, outside of Dre Greenlaw being out, but we do know that Dre Greenlaw starting the year on PUP, the 49ers have gone out and they have gotten replacements to come in. So they have kind of insulated the linebacker position. Plus, you have two second-year linebackers in Winters and Graham, who showed nicely in spots last year, who could be someone they potentially lean on. So, and we talked about at the beginning, Ricky Pearsall is on the NFI list, and the reason why he's on that particular list is because his injury happened away from the team. And speaking of the injury, what we were able to get out of this particular press conference is that Ricky Pearsall is actually dealing with a hamstring injury. And so obviously it must have been a pretty significant one. Obviously goes on NFI last week. Kyle Shanahan alerted the press that that Pearsall will miss the first block of training camp practices. And then it was Matt Barrows who followed up and said, well, what is a block considered to you? And it's the chunks of practices that they have in consecutive order prior to taking a break. So essentially what that means is Ricky Pearsall is slated to miss about 3 or 4 days of training camp, which is a bit unfortunate, especially for a young rookie who's just getting, his feet under him in the NFL, wants to make a good impression, wants to get ahead of, you want to get as many reps as possible, regardless of you're a rookie or, even a guy later on in his career. Sometimes the best thing you can get is reps in practice, especially in training camp. So Ricky Pearsall was a guy that I know a lot of fans were really excited to see, myself included. I was really looking to get eyes on, see how he acclimated into the offense, see what the rapport was with Brock Purdy, see how Kyle Shanahan was scheming him up, see the matchups that Kyle was able to kind of put, like, where is he going to play? And so that is delayed a bit. So we will have to wait until later on in training camp, which is fine. But I think it's just something that, just kind of puts a damper a little bit on the start of his career. How impactful is it? It's probably not that impactful at all things considered. In the short term, we feel it, but in the long term, it's really not that big of a deal. The biggest thing that I think we should be monitoring is like re-aggravations throughout the year, throughout training camp, throughout preseason. That's where you don't want to see soft tissue injuries continue to pop up. You want to, soft tissue injuries are going to happen. Hamstrings are going to get tight. They're going to pull sometimes. It's just a nature of the business playing wide receiver. But again, the thing you want to look out for is the reoccurring aspect of it. You don't want to see it continue to pop up. I think a guy like Christian Watson with the Green Bay Packers, who just could not get his hamstrings healthy. He's a phenomenal talent, just couldn't get his hamstrings right. So we'll see. I think we'll be excited to see what Ricky Pearsall looks like in training camp when he's able to go. But also, on top of the guys who can't go, we did get some news about guys who can go. So this is a kind of carryover from mandatory minicamp and OTAs of players who weren't available then but appear to be available now. Starting with center Jake Brendel, dealing with knee tendonitis, didn't participate in the offseason program back in the spring, but does appear to be good to go, avoids PUP, so that's a good thing. Charvarius Ward, who had the core muscle surgery, he was able to avoid that as well. He looks like he's good to go. George Kittle, obviously, talking about how he lost like 30 pounds essentially because of the surgery that he had, and then the recovery time and losing muscle mass and things like that. And obviously, he's working to get that weight back. But up until it stands right now, George Kittle looks like he's all clear. Cam Latu, fellow tight end, third round draft pick last year, was kind of medically redshirted, gets an opportunity to be ready to go at the start of camp. I would say Cam Latu is one of the guys on the roster that has the most to prove from kind of his performance last year in camp. I know a lot was made about some of the drop balls that he had. I think there's potential there. I think he might have to work at it a little bit more, but I still think Cam Latu could be an NFL player. To what caliber, I think that remains to be seen. But I'm really curious to see what Cam Latu looks like in this camp opposed to last camp, because, like I mentioned, you saw some glimpses, but you also saw a lot of things that you didn't really like. So again, could have just been rookie year, kind of the rookie yips. Really interested to see how he looks in year two. So we got some good news. We got some not the best news, but again, we shall see what everything looks like when it's all said and done. So let me know what you guys think about the 49ers state of their injuries. Are you concerned about the safety depth? What did you hear that maybe might give you some cause for concern? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.